Welcome back. In this tutorial we're going to insert our internal walls on our cottage. We've already done our externals, they look good. Now let's move on to our internals. So go to our working drawings, and a couple of things to note. First of all, in our specifications, you can see the external walls, the exterior were 90mm thick by 40, and the internals are thinner. They're 70 by 35, and their timber rating, F5 is less than F8 for the exteriors. This is because they don't need to be as strong because they're not load bearing. They don't hold or support the roof. The internal walls in this case, you can see one running along here and also one here, are purely there to partition our rooms from each other. They're not structural. Over here, we can look at the dimensions to see where we need to insert our walls. You can see this little figure here at 90 is the thickness of our external wall. Then from the inside edge of our external wall up to this point here, which is our internal wall, that is 70mm thick, as you can see. The distance between these two walls is 3950. So that 3950 is from the inside point of this 90mm external wall up to the lower face of this internal wall. So now that we've got that 3950, let's move over to ArchiCAD. Let's go to 2D and let's get inserting. Come over to your wall tool and select your settings on the toolbar, and let's move over here. It's just like the externals, the internals are preset at 2400, which is good. What's what we need, so we don't need to touch this. We have complex walls, but let's go to our simple ones as well. And instead of timber structural, which is what it would have been set on for the externals, let's move up and I want you to find timber stud for the internals. I want you to make the timber studs 70mm thick because it's what it said on the drawings. Let's move down, keep the reference line as is, and come down here to model, select model, make the top one white stucco, which is the plaster style, and use the chain to link them all so that they're all white stucco. Remember, these are internal walls, so both sides of them will want to be plaster style because they're both walls of one of the rooms on the inside. Come down, and in the layers section down here, it may have already been set in wall external. I need you to change that. Move down and find wall internal. So we have an internal layer. And click OK. Now here we are at our diagram. You need to come over, and 3950 is our dimension. So come to the inside point. Let it snap like that. Start dragging your cursor up the wall, just enough there so it picks up, the software picks up that we want to do something with this wall, and hit D. You can see the distance right there is 300, but hit D and we can edit that. So D 3950 is what we want from that internal point, 950, and hit enter. And you can see it brings our cursor up to this 3950 point, ready to begin our wall. All we have to do is start dragging. You can see there's our wall. Make sure the reference line is at the right point, which is the bottom. If you have it this way, you can see that our wall is going below the reference point, so it's going to be less. The gap between the bottom wall and this wall is going to be less than 3950 if we take it that way. So flip it, make sure it's the right way up. If it isn't the right way up, you can come up here and you can change it here, the outside face for the reference line, you can change it to the inside face and that would flip it, but we don't need to do it. Bring it across, make sure it's snapped in at 90 degrees, and I want you to bring it past this external wall. So bring it out somewhere over here and click. And there we have our wall has been drawn. You can see in our 3D view, there it is. Now obviously there's that overlay. So I want you to come up here and I'm gonna teach you how to use this tool, which is called Trim. Click on Trim, it's easy to use. Bring it down to the part that you don't want, which is just here, and click. And it'll trim it back to where you need it. It's the first one inserted. Now let's do the same for the second wall. So there's going to be a wall coming somewhere down and through here. So let's get our dimensions. Go back to your drawing. This wall is what I'm talking about. If we get into our drawing, we need to see how far from the left or the right we need to begin drawing this. So come down here. 70 mils, this represents the internal wall we're just about to build. And let's go from this corner over here, from the inside of that wall is 3600 to where that one begins. So remember that, 3600. Flick back to ArchiCAD, come up to that point over here, let it snap. Don't click, just start to drag. The software recognizes that we want to work along this wall. Hit D, and we have a distance here, which we can modify to 3600. Enter. Oh, it hasn't done that. Escape, escape, let's try that again. Come back up to this point, let it snap in. Send it across a little bit, there we go, hit D, 3600, enter, there we go, it's automatically recognized it. Now we start bringing our cursor down, you can see the wall is on the right side, it's not flipped like that, it's like that, so the distance is going to be 3600, bring it down past it as well and click. Come up, take your trim button, select the part we want to trim and trim it back. And come up to our 3D picture, let's get to our little walkie man and we can have a look, and it's come up very nicely, just how we want. And that's our internal walls inserted.